What's going on, my One Piece pros? It's me, Sergio B, back at it here once again in the place to be, PPG. Now, last video, Yadam hit you guys with the tech, the true gas yellow Katakuri. And personally, I love that deck. But today, I'm coming to you guys with the saw, the fire, the best way to win the game, not swinging. So, join me and my pirate crew. You've heard the red-haired pirates. This is the No Red Gang. And today, we're gonna talk about Nami. All right, so like I said, today we're gonna be going ahead and talking about Nami. So Nami plays a little different than any other leader in the game. Now I know everyone says that almost about most leaders, but Nami literally says, if your deck were to reach 0 cards, you win the game, as opposed to losing the game. Nami also has a text, Dawn 1, when attacking, if she deals damage to your opponent's life, you trash the top card of your deck. She's blue, and you start with 5 life. So the whole game plan in Nami is to never swing at your opponent's life, except with specific key creatures that say the text, when they deal damage, they mill 7 cards as the creatures in your deck. We're gonna be very pillow 40, we're gonna not attack, we're gonna make sure that we have a nice amount of cards in hand, and we wanna stay at 5 life as much, and as long as possible. So let's go ahead and get a little deeper into the cards. All right, so our 1-drops are a little bit more important than most decks 1-drops because we have a lot of bounce effects in our deck, and we want to reuse our 1-drops. So bounce them to our hand and replay them to reuse their on-play effects. Mr. 1 Dog Bones, 1-drop, 1k attack, 1k counter. On play, you add a 1-cost event from your graveyard to your hand. So in our deck, our only target is Rubber Band, Usopp's Rubber Band. But in other lists, there's Gavel, you can play Desert Spada. This is our value engine. The 1-drop Kaya, she's a 2k counter, 0 power. On play, we're gonna draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. She's never gonna be giving us advantage. The draw is kind of like a bait because we're not drawing cards, since we're discarding, we're going even. So you wanna see every draw in our deck as a mill 2, excluding Pilaf. Every draw in our deck, we're just closer to our goal of reaching 0 cards. These are our main targets to bounce because once you play them again, we're gaining more advantage. You don't always want to hyper focus these because our bounce spells are good targeting the opponent's creatures because they get less pressure. So it's going to be very crucial to know when to bounce our guys and when to bounce our opponents. Worst case, we bounce them and use them as counter to not take life damage. You most of the time want a mulligan for Kaya and a way to bounce her, or Bones, a 1-drop spell and like a way to keep bouncing them, to keep reusing them to get more cards deeper in our deck. We only play 8 2Ks, so Kaya is very key. We have to know when to use her as a 2K, but most of the time we want to keep her in hand so we can keep playing her and getting deeper into our deck to get to our win con. All right, so these next set of cards are a little more defensive characters. We have the 2-drop blocker Boodle, and then we have the 4-drop 5k 2k counter Mihawk. Mihawk is just the best in slot 2k. You don 1 and he's gonna go ahead and draw 2, discard 2. Remember what I said about before, any draw is gonna be mill, so he's just the best 2k because we can summon him, and worst case we're gonna draw 2. Now Boodle can be the 1-drop Law. I just like Boodle a little more because he has counter, and I like cards with versatility. So in hand, if it can pump us 1k, that's what we're looking for. Boodle on KO, after we block with it, is gonna trash the top card of our deck. So we always want to maintain Boodle for the 9k swings and above, because 9k is always gonna get 2 cards out of our hand, even if we have the 4k counter like Love Mellow or Overheat. So 9k is a very crucial number for us. So we always want to hold the blockers for 9k and above. And there's a lot of 9ks in this meta. The Big Mom, the Whitebeard, the 10-drop Kuzan. the 8-drop Isho, like there's just a lot of bombs. We're in a very tap out format, so we want to make sure we have the blockers so we don't use our hand advantage and just waste it on a 9k swing when we take a life. When we want to stay at life, like we want to stay as high in life as long as possible. We're trying to survive and mill out because we're never swinging. So if they keep committing cards to the board and we keep swinging with Nami, since Nami's never swinging at life, she's always going to be swinging at tapped creatures. She's essentially a removal spell, and that's why like we need to control the board as best as possible and block. All right, so next up are our attackers. The next 3 creatures are always going to be trying to go sideways as much as possible to get cards out of our opponent's hand, because if any of them hit life, they're always going to mill 7 cards. Every creature I'm about to put down has the text Dawn 1. When this creature attack deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash 7 cards from the top of your deck. So your opponent will want to stop this attack 9 times out of 10, and for that, they're going to have to lose cards in hand. And the entire time, we haven't been swinging with our leader and giving them cards naturally. So it's either discard cards in the hand or let us mill 7 and get our game plan going. I genuinely think for this deck to be a contender, it needs to mill 7 at least once. There's a reason we don't max out on the Usopp, but the other 2, I'm a big fan of 4. Let's get into each one individually. You got Belmare. She's a 4-drop 5k with the text that I said before, but she has the additional text that on KO, she's going to trash the top 3 cards of our deck. So when she's tapped and people are going to swing at her, so she's essentially blocking for you because they're not swinging at life, giving us another turn, another life to stay longer in the game. When she's tapped and they finally get to her and she dies, she's going to get us again closer to our game plan. She's like a Peril Sparrow, but instead of adding a card to our hand, she's milling the top 2 cards of our deck. So I'm a big fan of Belmare. If you're going less on the attack, like base decks, you can go less Usopps and less Belmare, and you go more event heavy. But for the time being, I'm a big proprietor of Mill 7. So these I'm trying to max out on as much as possible. The reason we don't max out on Usopp is because we're in a more Whitebeard heavy meta. He doesn't have any counter, and he's a 4-drop 5k Dawn 1 with Rush. So we're committing 5 mana to potentially mill 7 into a 6k lead who has a million cards in hand, because Whitebeard is constantly adding cards to their hand. And finally, probably the best, non-bomb in the deck, Death is a 5-drop 6k with counter. Aside from the Dawn 1 mill 7 text that he has an on-play effect where he targets a 3-cost or less character on either side and returns it to the hand. So we're going to go ahead and, like I mentioned earlier, we target our Das Bones and we target our Kaya. So we keep looping them and gaining our advantage, even though it's not, exactly advantage. We're just sculpting our hand to get the best 2 cards from Kaya and always getting the 1k or the 2k counter because it's a 1-drop event, Rubber Band, which also trashes a card and gets us deeper. Worst case, he bounces a 3-drop or less that's going to be attacking you. It's going to be applying pressure. So it's getting you more life by stopping attacks. And then on top of it, once he taps and starts swinging at life, they're going to be swinging at him. All these creatures are in theory blockers because since they're tapping, your opponent will more than likely swing at them because they are threats. If they mill 7, your deck turns on. Your deck is scary. And that's the point of the no red gang, to scare these other decks into fearing us. So mill 7, that's the gang, that's the plan, that's what we're going for. So big proprietor on as many of these as possible. If you're more of an Usopp fan, hey, 2 more. I'm a big fan of the art. Mill 7's the way. Okay, and then a little bit on the top end side, we have 4 Soga Kings. Now Soga King is a 7-drop 6k with counter. On play, we're going to bounce a 6k or less, and then we're going to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. Now, the actual best text on him is that he's always considered Usopp. So if you want to play the 1-drop Sheriff Village Pirates, you can add Soga King from the trash with him. Now, Soga King, once again, like I had mentioned before, game plan, it bounces the Kayas, it bounces the Das Bone, it bounces attackers, and it gets us 2 cards deeper into our deck. So we're sculpting our hand to get the best hand, the most gas in our hand as possible. And we're going 2 cards deeper into the deck. So our game plan to mill is always going to be there. I'm a big fan of 4 because at the end of the day, he has counter, he bounces Kaya, and he lets us get 2 cards deeper. So we sculpt our hand to just be better, and we can change as the game plan goes depending on what our opponent's doing. And in worst case, like I said about Zeph, we bounce an opponent's attacker. I'm a big Soga King fan. Highly recommend getting the alternate art. You guys know where to get it. Pro Play Games. Let's go ahead and get into the events. These are pretty straightforward. I play 4 Usopp's Rubber Band of Doom. 1 cost counter. Up to 1 character or leader gains 2k, and then you trash the top card of our deck. The trigger is draw 1 card, then trash the top card of our deck. So we're going 2 cards deeper on trigger. And the artwork is amazing. That's probably one of the more funnier scenes in early One Piece if you're an actual, manga / anime fan of it. And it's our only target for Daw's Bones. Gavel, I think, is really good. Unfortunately, Gavel only pumps leader, and it's just, since our whole game plan is hand advantage, it really sucks to have to discard a card. I don't like Gavel, but more than happy to cut cards if you feel like a Gavel enjoyer. I was more than happy. There's slots to put in. I'll get to that towards the end. Then we have the 2-drop of counters. We have Overheat, which is, was a staple in set 1. 2 mana, bounce 3-drop or less. Trigger does the same thing, 4 or less. Again, most of the time this is really good because you can bounce Kaya. So if you're in like a real pinch, you can bounce Kaya, use her as a 2k. But again, you want to always bounce Kaya to keep her in hand and keep getting deeper. And again, worst case, you bounce an opponent's 3-drop attacker if the pressure's too much. Then we have 4 Love Mellow. When your hand drops low, at the end of the day, it's getting us deeper into the deck. And these are the only counters that I play. I don't play Death Wink. I don't play, like I said, Gavel. And I don't play Desert Spada. Again, all great cards. I'll get to it in the end. We have tech slots if you want to cut cards to try them. So far, this has been working really well for me. And yeah, I love every single one of these counter events. So the last 8 slots, we have the activate main events. The first one is if Zeph's the best creature in the deck, Sanji's Pilaf is the best card in the deck because we go ahead and 3 mana, draw 2 cards, trigger, activate main, draw 2 cards. This is the best card in the deck, hands down. It is the only raw +1 in the deck because Kaya we're going even because we discard. Soga King we go even because we discard. So this, I want to activate this as many times as possible as game. If it's in trigger, it's probably the best trigger we have. I love this card. I'd play it at 5 if I could. I was originally a Yu-Gi-Oh player, so Pot of Greed is awesome. I'm a Pot of Greed enjoyer. Move this a little lower. And then the final 4 slots are, I guess, a little more, I don't say controversial, it's a troll word, but it's the ones you could swap out if you're not feeling. But we have 4 3000 Worlds. It's 4 mana, target a 5-drop or less, bottom deck it, trigger. Target a 3 or less, bottom deck it. This is our way to not die to going wide. Every deck loves 5-drops or less, and they love to tap with them, and they love to swing at life. So this punishes Borsellino. This punishes Kuzan, which is gonna tap sideways and -4 one of our big -7 guys, and they're gonna pop it for free. So we don't want any of that happening. When we're pushing for a mill 7, you can bottom deck a blocker, worst case. This is one of those slots, if you're not feeling it, I totally understand you could swap out for some of the techs I'm about to get to. But other than that, I'm a big fan of 3000 Worlds. Billy thinks that it's a 4 of, this is the way, and I'm with him so far. So if you guys aren't feeling it, feel free to check out the techs I'm about to get into. But so far, I think 3000 Worlds is the way to go. All right, my pros. So the last 2 cards that I, weren't in this list, but they're in most Nami lists, are Gum Gum Gavel and Deathwing. Gavel's a 1 mana. You may trash 1 card from your hand, gave your leader plus 4k, and then you trash the top 2 cards of your deck. This card, seems like it's perfect for our game plan. We trash it. It's 1 mana plus 4k, so they're never expecting it. They always expect 2 mana 4k. I don't think discarding a card is worth the 1 mana effect or the trash 2. Our whole game plan is keep as many cards in hand as possible and try to discard 1 card per attack. And I know this gets us one card if it didn't discard a card. So it's always gonna, this ruins the whole one card per attack because it's always gonna discard a card. So I'm currently not a Gum Gum Gavel fan. If you guys are a Gum Gum Gavel fan, comment down below. One of the things I like about the Nami deck is that there's a lot of room to wiggle. So if there's some slots you didn't like in my deck, you feel free to put in Gavel. I'm open to try it, and I wouldn't be surprised if I try it at one of the locals that I'm gonna try to do for you guys with the deck. But right now, I am not a Gavel fan. So if you guys are feeling it, more power to you. I'll probably try it in the coming weeks just to, if I get enough comments that Gavel's the way. And then Deathwing, 3 mana plus 6k, draw up to 2 cards. If you have, like, draw up to 2 cards, so your hand is 2. So if you have 0, you draw 2. If you have 1, you draw 1. I just never have the mana for this. It's always very awkward. I know we always want to pass, but it's paying 3 mana. I'd rather just pay 4 and bottom deck whatever's swinging at me. And I know you can't do it for bigger bombs, but it's just, I haven't been a Deathwing fan since I read it, but I know a lot of people are. Again, hey, if you're a Deathwing fan, comment down below. Maybe you get me on the Deathwing camp. But right now, I'm just not really feeling these cards. So that's why they're not in the deck. If you want to try it out, more power to you guys. I'll more than likely try it out because I know a lot of, the pros have been telling me that this is the way. And I want to know if you guys think this is the way. Currently, I'm off it, but hey, maybe you guys know something I don't know. So, well, my pros, that about covers it. Now you know everything you need to know about Nami. To never attack, mill out, and rob them blind. If you liked any cards you saw, you want to order anything online, check out our links below and our TCG affiliate link. I also wanted to shout out Billy the Beast Zidane. He's one of our local legends that comes to the store all the time. Help me with this deck, any ideas, any testing, he's the one I go to. If you ever see him at the store, shout him out. And the next shout out, my local shout out for always seeing you at the store, goes to Piggy. Keep it up, brother. Love seeing you at the store. And if you guys are ever around, make sure you say hi. We'll always try to get you a shout out in the video. And make sure you guys keep it pro. Boom! Money! I'm doing this for free!